confidence is everything. Whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're both right. That
Right.
quote
Yep.
sticks with me every time because I'm like, that is so true. I think why I kind of strayed towards drugs and alcohol was because those limiting beliefs I had about myself. That I wasn't good enough
Yeah.
in certain areas. This was the one thing I had to learn how to do was quiet my mind. I
Mm.
dove into everything like spiritual warfare, listen to podcasts on personal development, started reading a lot of books, just
Yeah.
started learning how to control my mind. And everything came back to trying to get better and become a better person, came back to the mindset. You got to learn how to upgrade your mind. You're trying to upgrade everything else about your body and everything else, but your mind still is horrible. You got to learn
Yeah.
how to upgrade that.
What's going on, pursuers? Welcome to the Pursuit of Calling podcast. And Ryan, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, I'm excited. Ryan is he's working on becoming a keynote speaker, but he's also currently coaching kids how to gain confidence and gain college scholarships. That's a couple things that came up during our pre-interview that we had like almost a month ago now. It feels like, and but yeah, guys, I'm excited for this conversation. Ryan, for the pursuers who don't know you, because we're gonna assume most of them don't. Who do you who are you? Like, what do you want them to know about you?
Man, that's a pretty loaded question, isn't it? Uh, Probably the number one thing I'd want people to know is I'm a child of God. First and foremost, my identity is in
Amen.
God. Everything I am and have is rooted in Him, which wasn't always the case, but now I realize that that's where everything about me comes from. For everybody else, the non-godly folks out there, would say I am pretty much a mindset coach and trying to become a motivational speaker, and that's pretty much
Awesome.
me.
No, that's fantastic. No, you told me before we started recording, short and sweet. That's great.
Yep.
uh, um, so a part of your story that I found really intriguing, and I'm happy when during the pre-interview I dove into it further. But you mentioned going from jail, being incarcerated, to running a wrestling academy, and so like before we talk about you actually getting to where you are now, I want to talk about where you were. So can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
Well, I mean, I grew up like any normal kid, was very athletic, good in school, and somewhere along that path, I lost myself and became addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I just kept going down that path. Every time I try to get away from it, I would kind of get sucked back in because I had my own personal hurts, hang-ups, everything. Well, eventually I realized that all that was going to happen to me was I was going to end up dead. I was going to end up in prison, and those or I could get clean and sober. And this happened. I ended up in jail for a little time, like 20 some days, and had some time to kind of reflect on if that was the life I wanted. And it wasn't.
Yeah, like, and sometimes that's what you need that kick. Sometimes, right? You need that
Yes.
realization whenever you're brought down low, and like I'm diving a lot into Psalm 23 right now, and whenever in that valley of the shadow of death, and you start like you realize whenever you become a child of God, you're like, man, I can fear no evil because God is with me.
Yeah, and that's what I take
And
from like my that time there was God was giving me a time out and bringing me closer to Him. Because in my time there, I started going to recovery meetings. Was going back to doing Bible studies, going to like church sessions, which I hadn't been to church in like almost 20 years at that point. And as soon as I got out, the people that were coming in doing recovery meetings, I started meeting up with them. So everything was for a reason that I was sent there to go to that next level and follow that next path.
yeah, and what is that next path? What was that?
At first, I didn't know. First, it was get clean and sober. That was my main objective. Was
Mm-hmm.
try to get away from drugs and alcohol. Like there was no other path but that. That was my main focus. Was that, and then I realized,
Mm-hmm.
hey, that my main focus needed to be on God, not just the getting clean and sober part.
Yeah. Mm. And then that led you from from what I remember to a conversation that you had with your friend about what you should be doing with your life.
Yeah, I mean that was an
You,
interesting thing. I mean, so I was doing construction at the time, and I just felt it in my heart that I wasn't supposed to be there anymore. I was having trouble
mm,
getting clean and sober. I mean, I was struggling. Some days I'd be good, other days bad. But we were working outside middle, and I'm living in Ohio, so in middle of winter, working outside, kind of miserable in the middle of what December, January. You know, it's kind of miserable
mm,
outside, cold,
yeah.
and I couldn't be happy. I mean, I was not happy at all where I was in life, and
Mm-hmm.
the people I was around where there was a lot of negativity. I'm like, I can't do it here. I can't do what I need to do in this environment. I need to get away. So I took a layoff from work and was kind of debating on what I wanted to do again. And was like, you know what? I'm gonna start my own business. Let's maybe start a painting business or something that I know I could do. I know some other
Mm-hmm.
people, some construction people that could help me get me in the foot in the door, and I could go do this. Well, I went and talked to a friend, really good friend, and we started talking. I wanted to get some advice on how to get this business up and running, business plan, everything. And I used to coach his sons in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in. I went to him. We just started talking, small talk, talk about how his kid. I asked how his kids were doing, how the team was doing, and we just started talking about wrestling. And he seen my face light up as we were talking about wrestling and about helping kids and about having a plan of how to get them to be successful, how to change things around. He just looked at me, Ryan. He goes, "You don't even know, do you?" I go, "No, no what?" He goes, "This is what you need to be doing, not the other stuff, not running a painting business or anything like that. You need to go coach wrestling and help these kids." He goes, "That's
Mm-hmm.
what you need to do." He goes, "You have a plan. Anybody who knows anything can kind of see how your face lights up when you talk about it." He goes, that's where you need to go. So that's what I started pursuing. Well, there's a lot of doubt first and foremost in my head that am I good enough to do that? Look where I was just at. I was in jail probably less than 4 months ago. You
Mm-hmm.
know, is anybody gonna let me around their kids? I mean, wasn't the best
Yeah.
role model at the time. So I had a lot of doubt. I ended up
Mm-hmm.
finding something in my coat pocket. And I pulled out this, I kept asking God, if this is what you want me to do, tell
Mm-hmm.
me. Well, one day I
Yeah.
reached in my coat pocket and pulled out this poem, and it was like a wrestling poem.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I didn't know. I thought somebody put it in my pocket. That's where I was at the time, because I was just re- recently came back to God, not
Right.
realizing this is how it all works. I'm like, who's playing with me? And pulled this thing out. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Hmm.
So I went and pursued that track.
Yeah. And previously, you talked about on our pre-interview, you talked about building confidence in these kids because that's where they needed to start because they didn't have confidence in themselves to be able to achieve the things that you knew that they could, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I start with
And
everybody
for sure.
is
And
confidence.
for the listeners of this podcast, I've decided to shift my focus, my niche towards young Christian men who are dealing with these chronic conditions and similar to mine. It's the same thing. The same thing happens because you start to believe that because of your circumstances that you're not capable of doing this. You're not capable of doing this, achieving big goals. Not capable of doing things that other people say that you are not able to do. So what would you be able to say based on your experience with kids that are in certain circumstances or even believe things about themselves? Like, how does that translate?
Well, confidence is everything. I That Henry Ford quote always sticks to me when I start thinking about this. It's those who believe they can, or whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're both right. I mean, that quote
Right. Yep.
sticks with me every time because I'm like, that is so true. And that was part of my problem. I think why I kind of strayed towards drugs and alcohol was because, like, those limiting beliefs I had about myself, that I wasn't good enough
Yeah.
in certain areas. And so when I kind of got clean and sober, this was the one thing I had to learn how to do was quiet my mind. And I mean, I
Mm.
dove into everything like spiritual warfare, listen to podcasts on like personal development, started reading a lot of books, and just started learning how to control my mind. And everything came back to when I'm trying to get better and become a better person, came back to the mindset. You got to learn how to upgrade your mind. You're trying to upgrade everything else about your body and everything else, but your mind still is horrible. You got to learn
Yeah.
how to upgrade that. So, I mean, I
Hmm.
deep dove into a lot of that on how to start controlling that. And I was kind of led to start working with kids in wrestling with mindset. And when I did this program, I signed up to do this program on mindset coaching. I'm like, we started talking about, they gave me the worksheets and everything that we were doing. And I looked at them like, man, this is a lot of the stuff that I did for myself, to upgrade my own mind. I'm like, I bet this stuff
Yeah.
works. So I kind of started working with a kid here, and it didn't really take with him because he
Hmm.
did some of the work and then he didn't. But I kind of learned a little bit. I tried to rush the process with him. Like his process needs to go slower. So I need to go slower with a lot of people. You can't rush the
Mm.
process of them upgrading their mind. It's an everyday occurrence, and you just process of the process. You can't rush it. So I took on another kid, and wow, it took off. Like this kid went from like mid level, which he always had the talent, but his mindset wasn't very the best. But he went from mid level to top notch, like
Mm.
very very good, and people started noticing it. Within a
Yeah.
year, they've seen like the transformation this kid had within a year of working with me, and then the next
Yeah.
year, I mean, was even better.
Mm.
So eventually I started picking up clients all through word of mouth.
Yeah. So
So
what
I
do you
kind of
do?
seen.
Yeah.
So realistically, what I say is I build confidence in them. I get these kids to believe that what they want and desire in their heart is not impossible.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
kind of give them permission to go get it and build them out plans. But first, like I said, I start everybody out in confidence because I know how hard it is to go
Mhm.
like try to achieve something bigger than yourself that you don't think you can do. Like there's going to be a lot of struggles, lots of ups, lots of downs. So getting them to
Right.
learn how to calm that mind and start eliminating those voices in their head, those
Mm.
limiting beliefs they have about themselves. I mean, that is the main thing. Like why I start out with confidence is I get to start recognizing their patterns of their thoughts they have. And then I also
Yeah.
get to, you know, kind of get them to start rewiring it by what they're telling themselves and how they talk to themselves.
So in particular, what is the practical way that you do that? How do you rewire somebody's brain?
A lot with daily affirmations. I'd say the two biggest things in confidence that I do is daily affirmations and visualization. The daily affirmations, I mean, it's not where we're just sitting in a mirror saying, I am this, I am that. No, they're more like what Tony Robbins would call incantations because you're creating movement with it, like body movement, and you're actually speaking it
Mm.
from the heart. And there's feeling and emotion in it, not just, I am this, I can do this,
Yeah.
not just that. It's creating movement where you're actually believing that. Then you add you add the visualization to it later on, and you're starting manifesting things and starting to actually see yourself doing this stuff, and it's like, man, I can do this. And then you start
Yeah.
like eventually when you build the daily action plans and the habits to go with it, putting the work into it, everything starts, you start gaining a lot of momentum where you start believing you can do it.
Mm-hmm. What's an example you can give us? Like, I would love for the listeners who are still listening to the episode who are like, okay, I want to hear more of what Ryan has to say. Let's do something. Let's give them something practical to do.
So first off, I can give you like two quick steps. Okay, so first step, I would say, if you're lacking confidence, what I would do, write down 10 things that you've accomplished in life. 10 things that you've accomplished. It can be work related, school related, family related, spiritual related, anything. 10 things that you've done and accomplished that you're like, man, I didn't think I could do this, but I did. That's where confidence
Mm.
lies, is the things looking
Yeah.
at your past successes. Because we've all done
Mm.
things that other people couldn't do.
Yeah.
Everybody's done something that not everybody could do. And you've been successful. You're just not looking at it hard enough. And then to start looking at some of your skills. I'd put down like, hey, 10 skills that I'm good at. 10 things I'm like, they could be subjects in school. Like, hey, I'm good at this video game. Things like that. I mean, you all have
Yeah.
skills that you're better at than the other people. So when you start looking at all the
Yeah.
positive things, that's where I would start. And then what I would do, I would create an anchor or a gesture,
Mm.
which could be, it's just a physical, it's a just like a physical gesture. It could be a snap of a finger, a clap, smack on the head, pat on your chest, anything little, leg slap, anything little like that. And you just go down that list one by one and pair that with that gesture. Do that for a couple weeks. Every day, maybe once or twice a day for a couple weeks. And that just starts reprogramming your mind to show you, hey, you actually have been successful and you've actually been good at something. That's where you start because, hey, I could walk you through the other stuff, but getting you to actually see that you've actually done something that other people couldn't do and you're not what you think you are, it just helps rewire that brain a little bit. Then I would go
Yeah.
straight to like building affirmations, incantations, whatever you want to call them. And those are just I am
Mm-hmm.
statements. And those could be,
Yeah.
I'd say, create 5 of them, 5 or more. Let's be like, I'm unstoppable. I can do this. I'm the best. Like, kind of make it with what you want to do. So, like with the athletes I work with, I'm unstoppable. I'm the
Yeah.
strongest. Things like that. They create them statements and then kind of pair them up. So with the affirmations and everything, we'd say them 5 times a
Yeah.
day. And then
Mm.
after each time they say the I am statement, they do their gesture. And we do that once I start them out 5 times a day because it takes like 15
Mm-hmm.
seconds. It takes like 15
Yeah.
seconds. You can't remember them, take a picture on your phone of them and go through the day like that.
Yeah.
And it's just
And it's crazy because
reprogramming that mind.
yeah, and I think it's crazy because like what you're saying is I don't know if you heard this before. Maybe the listeners have. Um, Whenever I was in school, I would hear people say, whenever you're studying for a test, chew a only chew one chew a stick of gum, and it's like maybe it's flavorful, maybe it has mint in it, and only chew that when you're studying that for that test. And then whenever you go to take the test, chew that same gum because what that's going to do is going to trigger your brain to take that trigger and pull that information out into the surface. And that's what you're doing with the what you call it the gestures or the gestures. Like you're like, okay, I'm gonna match an I am statement or something I'm good at with a snap or a slap on the leg because it pulls it to the front. People, I think when you leave it on the surface sometimes, and like you're not in this world as much as we are, people you see that on the surface, and you're like, man, that can't work. That's not that sounds too easy, and and like And like, because I was definitely a person like that. I would hear that, I'm like, yeah, that's wishy washy. That makes no sense. That's like that's pipe dream stuff. But I've done it. I think I told you in our pre-interview. I did for a month. I did what Tony Robbins calls priming, where you visualize the future that you want. You visualize the goals that you're aiming to achieve as if you've already achieved them, and then you're going back through the whole process of who you became in order to achieve that goal. And that month, I was on fire. I was on fire. I would start it would be the start of my day every morning for like a month, and I like everything I did started becoming for that going towards that goal. I wrote down um, a a while ago. I wrote down I don't know if you read Think and Grow Rich, but that's a great
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And I he's all about visualization. He's like write down in as much detail like how much money you want to make, how you're going to make that money, what you're going to do. And I did that. I wrote it all down. Napoleon Hill. People don't know who I'm talking about. And I did that. I wrote it all down and then forgot about it. Read it for like I read it every day, like you said in the book. Read it every day for like however long I did it. I read it to a point where I memorized it. The Then one day I picked it up. I found it. I found my paper. I kept it in a folder. It's off to my left over there, and I read it. I was like, "Oh, it's going to be coaching, and merch store, and all this stuff." And I was like, at the time, I was like, "I'm literally doing everything that I wrote down. I forgot I even wrote it.
Yeah.
Like I programmed my brain."
Well, that's
And
what it is.
so, guys,
Visualization gives you're giving your subconscious mind that belief, so it gives your conscious mind permission to go get it. It programs your subconscious, which programs your conscious mind to go attract those things. Because everything needs to
mm-hmm,
be done on the subconscious level. Like us as human beings are probably only operating at probably maybe what they said, maybe 10-15% of our mental capability. Like with visualization and all that stuff, all the things we don't utilize, like with our
yeah,
brain capacity. I mean, it's crazy when you kind of look at everything. I mean, we've being bombarded with so many messages throughout with no quiet time or anything, that we're just being bombarded with all those messages from social media and everything, all television ads and everything else. We don't know what's going on half the time.
mm, yeah,
So that's why that quiet time away from yourself and like the visualization definitely works. I love visualization, like you've talked about how it worked for you.
yeah, yeah. It's. I don't know. It's fantastic. And now we're talking about, man, I don't do it enough. And but like that's also why whenever we were talking, like somebody tells a story and the people who are listening are starting to form a story of their version of it in their heads. And they're like, if you're talking about driving your car, they're thinking about driving in their car. And like the so like why can't we do that for ourselves? Why can't I be like, okay, I'm gonna intentionally do that instead of letting my subconscious I'm gonna start programming my subconscious, and whenever we start programming that part of our minds, then it takes we don't have to think, eventually we don't even have to think about it. Eventually it's our subconscious works independently of us, which is awesome. But we have to intentionally take a hold of it instead of letting the world dictate what it's going to think. That's why you're starting to. That's why like fight or flight is a thing. That's why because like we start to get programmed by different things and different triggers. But whenever we start intentionally acknowledging what those triggers are and then making our own triggers, like you were saying, like then we can start to actually pull things out of our subconscious into our consciousness and actively utilize it in our day-to-day lives. Um, so guys, for the listeners of this podcast, for the pursuers that are listening, I actually want you to do that. Think about how you're starting your day every day. How are you starting it? Are you in the word? Are you starting it with the word? Are you visualizing? Like, have you ever done visualization before? If you haven't, either try it after this episode or try it in the morning and like actually visualize a goal that you want to achieve. Like I know now that I'm saying the goal that you want to achieve, you're thinking about the goals that you want to achieve. I already know that you're doing that. I don't even have to know who you are. And start doing that visualization. We talked about how good it is. So he gave you those practical steps. He gave you what he said, a 5 a.m. statements, doing the visualization, write down 10 things that you've accomplished in your life. and 10 things that you're good at, like just doing one of those is enough. Just doing one of those is a great start. I almost said it was enough, and that wasn't going to be true. But Ryan, before we wrap up, do you have anything else that you want to leave the listeners before we go to our final questions?
Yeah, I would just tell them if you do visualization, use all your senses. Use all your
Okay.
senses too with that because it makes it more personable, makes it more emotional when you can
Yeah.
like even smell like where you're at, like hear it and feel like
Yeah.
actually feel it. It creates more of that like definitive. Hey, this is going to happen. Makes it more real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Go
that
into
would
as
be the
much
only
when
advice I'd
you're
have.
doing that visualization. Yeah.
Yeah, just
All
add
right.
your senses to it.
And right. But now, Ryan, so going to the end, I always ask people the same two questions. I'll start with the first one, then we'll move to the second one. So, what is the top resource, a top tool that you recommend to people?
So, like, let's talk about a book.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yes.
probably
Yeah.
one of my favorite books, and it's a quick read. It's I can't even remember who wrote it though. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's probably only
Mm,
110 pages long, but it talks about the process. It is a
mm,
very good book, and everything it talks about. It showed me so much that hey, it's always about the process, about who you become in the process, and not about reaching your destination. The process is going to be
yeah.
hard. You just got to go through it.
Hmm.
Fall in love with the
Right.
process.
Mm,
That's one of my favorite books of all time.
hmm.
Because no
That's
matter what,
awesome.
it's
Okay. I'm
that's my favorite book.
awesome. Yeah. Thank you. That's gonna be linked in the show notes. I'd probably give the Amazon link, unless you have a better one out there. Um, and then who do you know that I should know, Ryan? Who would be a good part of my net addition to my network? Who would be great to have as a podcast guest for the pursuers of the Pursuit of Calling podcast to listen to?
So one guest that a very good personal friend of mine named Rory Paquette, who is actually my podcast coach. And I actually did a podcast. My first podcast I ever went on was his. And then he ended up becoming my podcast
Mm,
coach and kind of helped
yeah,
me start a podcast for myself. He would probably be
awesome.
the
So
best person for you to know.
awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to talk to you a little bit after the recording. We'll get talk a little bit more about your podcast coach, and we will yeah. But guys, thank you for listening to the Pursuit of Calling podcast. If you like this episode, go ahead, give it a like, give a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Yeah, make sure you do that because it really does help out the algorithm. And then, and if you really liked it, share with your friends, share it directly with your friends and not on social media because again, that helps us get out to that helps us spread the message, help people know that they were made for more, that they have a calling on their lives despite their circumstances. Whether you're in chronic pain or you're dealing with some other chronic illness, you were made for more and you have a higher calling on your life. So Ryan, thank you for joining me, and guys, we'll see you next time
Hey, thanks for having me.
for sure.